I've got a few bits and bobs we're going to experiment with. I've got a couple of these. These are they're pellets that produce this white smoke. I just went to my local stove shop and picked them up. They're quite expensive. They're £2.75 each. Well, I don't know what that is in American dollars. It's probably about $3.50 or something. So bloody expensive. And they only last for about 1 minute, but they produce this white smoke. I thought it might be interesting to put them into the airflow and see what happens. And then I've got all natural woods today, or unprocessed wood. This is apple wood. I think it's about 18 months old. And I've got some lovely cherry wood, which I've just cut up on my bandsaw. As a woodworker, I always sort of begrudge burning such beautiful wood, but this one's got some woodworm in it. And I probably still could have made something out of it, but never mind, we're going to burn it. Cherry wood. So, first things first, we get a bit of this wood stacked in the bottom. I mean, we haven't burnt anything as big as this, or as dense as this before, so we'll have to see how it goes. I should imagine it would be quite a long, slower burn, but we get a few. I mean, it's pretty substantial stuff. We won't leave too many gaps in between it. I think I better put some of the smaller stuff in there. I just cut these to length on my bandsaw as well. Makes it easier. I'll put all of this in if it will fit. I don't think we've tried it with quite such a full load, not in this format anyhow, but we'll see how that goes. So when I was building this stove, I've built a couple of them now, and each one you learn each time you build one. So when I build the next one, I've got a few things I will probably change. In making these doors has been okay. I mean, I had the cement board. Not everybody's got access to a cement board or could justify the cost of it because it is expensive. It works brilliantly well. I mean, the glass is simply siliconed in place. Simple as that. I can see where the main heat is at the bottom here, where the flames are sort of hitting the front. It's burnt off the silicon. There's no silicon left, but it's remained around the other three sides. So that seems to be holding the glass in. This bottom one's no problem at all. It simply doesn't get that warm. What I was going to say is this has got two thicknesses of vermiculite, but it wasn't quite thick enough. This is one of the design aspects you have to take into account if you decide to build one of these, because this depth really, you require that thickness to get the two doors to join together. You can't just have a small gap. I mean, it just wouldn't look right. There would be no bearing for the doors to go against. So I've actually added a further piece, which is this piece here. So that is a piece cut long ways. So I've actually got a gap there. I think it's over 3 inches. I think it's about 85 mil. So just bear that in mind if you ever come to build one. I mean, once I'm really happy with this design, I will do a build video from beginning to end. And another aspect, which I think I would consider, in some other videos, I've used these different hinges that just clamp onto the glass. They're just like bathroom shower door hinges. And I think if I left this vermiculite stick out past the stove body, then the glass could shut against it using those hinges. So we wouldn't need a frame at all. You could simply use 2 pieces of glass. I haven't explained that very well, but I'm sure it will come to light in a future video. Anyhow, let's get on with it. So I've put my flame gun to it. We're on fire. So we've certainly got a goodly amount of wood this time. The Vortex jumps into life. It normally does when you put the fire lighters. When they're so close to the Vortex slot, you get this display pretty much instantly. What's so good about this particular format with the stove, in previous times, the main issue has been the smoking of this top glass. And you don't really seem to get that at all. It must be to do with restriction, and I don't know if it's actual sloping top. One likes to think that is, but it's something we discovered as we've gone along. But in any which case, it's working really well. I just love to see the fact that it doesn't smoke up the glass. Right near the very beginning of the stove, that was always the most likely time for it to happen. And it's roaring away, So we'll shut the doors and we'll just let it do its own thing, and we'll come back in a bit. Now this is interesting. I've seen this happen before. Even though these are relatively small sticks I've cut off a mature apple tree, and I think it could be as long as 2 years ago, but you can just see the moisture that pours out the end of these pieces of these sticks. It's surprising how high the moisture content is, even though I thought they were going to be fairly dry, but it doesn't matter because they're catching fine anyhow. Well, this is quite interesting. Slightly disappointing, to be honest with you. The logs don't seem to burn with the same ferocity as the smaller pieces of dried workshop wood. Hardly surprising, but slightly disappointing. I mean, it's working and it's pouring out heat. There's no smoke, but we haven't got a very well developed vortex. There simply doesn't seem to be enough draw. Even if I open this door completely open, it's got as much as air as it could possibly require, but obviously the restriction is working against it in this case. So that sort of brings me on to the thought line of, do I need to make my restriction adjustable for different fuels and different conditions? And we've got that sloping piece of glass on the roof. I wonder if I had some sort of a system just to lift it up and down. It might deal with different types of wood and different materials. In actual fact, it works better with the door closed. Really performing as well as I hoped, but we've come this far, so we might as well try our white smoke thing and see how it works. I've taken the cover off there. Right, I can see white smoke coming in there. I can see the white smoke coming out. We can see the sort of pattern. I mean, basically it is coming up. It's coming up straight up against the glass and travelling back across the roof. So that's quite an interesting experiment. So you can now see it's really, white smoke's really coming out. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but it is coming vertically. It's hitting this glass, pouring out those two triangular bits, hitting the glass and going vertically up and then back towards there. So that is really working very well as a secondary air, because not only is the air being preheated before it comes in, it's hitting its glass and travelling along above the coals, which must be really heating it up very, very hot. We'll just hold it. Oh God, okay. Well, it's almost burnt out. It's hardly, that's it. That's it, it's gone. So I don't even know if that was 1 minute. Expensive. Bit of fun though. Okay, so in for a penny, in for a pound. We might as well light this other one and see how well it sucks this air in. Well, it certainly sucks it in. Now that air, I can see, is going directly... Oh, you bugger. Okay, I might have to relight that one. But what I could see is the smoke. It's going straight into the fire. So that's not coming up the front of the glass. There we go. If I hold it, get it just right. There we go. Now that is going straight into the fire. So that in effect is feeding the fire very, very directly. Whereas this, how this works, or not work, I think I'd have to stuff those to make that work. Oh well, yeah, that's certainly a smoky old thing. Let's chuck it in there. Yeah, that was a bit smoky. And now I've chucked it in the fire. I can see it going up into the vortex chamber, and interesting enough, it's instantly burning that smoke off. There's no white smoke you can see in front of the glass, but I can see it pouring up into the vortex slot. Just shows how efficient the stove is. But interesting experiment. When I held the smoke against this, when I had to take the cover off so I could get it in there for it to work properly, we could quite easily see the smoke coming out of the two triangles, hitting this glass, shooting up, travelling across the top and going into the vortex slot. So I think that really could be considered a secondary air, simply because it's not being burnt by the fire, it's not being consumed by the main fire, it is going up into the vortex. So that was quite interesting. When I held it in front of these slots, not surprisingly, it was going directly smack bang into the fire and feeding the fire. So with these two things combined, I think, you know, we are feeding the fire directly with colder air, and we are feeding the vortex chamber with the secondary air, which is what I sort of assumed would happen, but that is one way of proving what is happening, or at least I'm not sure if it actually proves anything, but it gives you a clearer idea. Okay, so I've come back outside, and the fire's now been, it was lit 2.5 hours ago, 2 hours, or yeah, maybe even slightly more than that. We've still got a few flames showing, which is unbelievable, really. So the logs took a long time to burn down. I mean, before that's completely dead, that's going to give us a whole 3-hour burn. Yeah, there's no sign of any vortex there at all. And I'll put my light on. Yeah, so I mean, it's dark outside, so that's been, that's going to be over 3 hours for sure by the time that's gone down to really finished.